Hi there, Alex here. If you haven't been following all of the previous videos that I've been doing so far, in summary, this is the recorded version of the live stream that I did. I just cut down certain scenes so you don't have to watch the whole hour and you can just watch a few minutes to see what we did on the whole session. Let's watch it then. Everything you have here in the middle is your canvas, so you will work on this canvas in the middle. On the right, we have the Mule palette. On the left, we have the project structure, so all of the folders, all of the files, you will be able to see them from here. Here, I mostly use this for munits, but I'm not using munits right now, so that's fine. And here on the bottom, every time that you click on a component or a connector, you will be able to see here the Mule properties. If you click here on console, you will be able to see all of the output console of whatever you're doing in the application. So for example, if you start a new application, and you will see here all of the output from the console. And then here we have problems. So for example, here I already have 3 warnings. Build path specifies execution environment. There are no... Really? Okay. Anyway, there are some warnings there. Maybe I'm not gonna fix them, but if you have like issues, warnings are normally in this like icon, which is like a warning sign, I guess. But if you have any problems, it will be in red. So those you do want to fix them. So now inside source main Mule is where we have our flows. You can also see here in parentheses that it says flows. So all of your... This is called a configuration file. It's an XML file. You can also see that it has a little mule icon. That is a configuration file. So if you open it, you will be able to see all of the different flows. In this example, it's not empty. But for example, if I click on new and then, where is it? Mule configuration file, I can create a new one. I'm just gonna name this test and finish. So here there's an empty canvas. So if I wanted to add a flow, for example, I would be able to go here to the Mule palette and select, let's do, for example, favorites or core. Let's do core. Here you can see all of the core components are already installed. Here in the scopes, we have, for example, flow. I'm not gonna go through all of these. I'm sure you can kind of figure out some of them. Let's take flow and drag and drop it into the canvas. So now here you have a test flow. And in the test flow, you can just put whatever other things you want. I will go in more detail about that in a moment, because I prefer to teach with examples and not just like that. But for example, if I go to here HTTP, all of these are modules. If I go to the HTTP module and I take a listener from here and I drag and drop it to source, then I will be able to have an HTTP listener that is, well, listening to a URL. So every time that you call that URL, it's gonna come here. And then here is the process of what do you want to do once this gets inside this flow. For example, I can do just a logger. I don't know where that is. I can also just use the search bar here and do logger. Here, for example, I already have in favorites. So I can just, again, drag and drop it into the process. Now let's change all of our Mule project that we have right now to implement some best practices like global elements or properties. So what are global elements? Let's start with that. Here we have the message flow view. Here we have the global elements view, and here we have the configuration XML view. So if you click on message flow, you will be able to see the graphic representation of the XML code. if you click on global elements, you will be able to see, I don't know how to explain this, like these global configurations. So for example, I have the configuration of this HTTP listener that is listening on localhost or 0000 IP and port 8081. And it has a read timeout of 30,000 milliseconds, I guess. So this is like a global property that can be reused in different flows or in different configuration files. It doesn't have to be one per file. It can be reused over the whole project. So that's global elements, and then configuration XML is where you keep all of the XML of this file. So if you are more comfortable seeing code, you can just go to the XML view and work on the code. Or if you prefer the graphical view, you can just go to the message flow tab and work on the graphical view. So the first thing that we are going to do that is like some best practices that I've seen in another kind of projects is that we go here to source main Mule, right click on that, select new, and then Mule configuration file. We're gonna create a new file, and we are going to call this global.xml. So once you do that, click on finish. And here in this file, we won't have any flows. We will only have global elements right here. So you saw like the global elements that we have in the other file. We have an HTTP listener configuration and the router configuration, which is used for the API kit. If you right click on it, you can click on go to XML. And here it will show you where the HTTP listener code is located. So for example, we have this and the API kit flow, the API kit config. So we're gonna copy both of those, or like cut. And then we go to the global file. And if we go to configuration XML, now we're just gonna paste those two inside the Mule brackets here. There. So now it's in red because I haven't saved the other file. So right now it thinks that this configuration exists in both files. So if I go to the previous file, this one, and I save this, now it will give me errors because, hey, there's no configuration file. But yes, if I come back here to the global elements, now I have them here. And if I save this, now this problem goes away because now we have this file here, and now this problem goes away too because now it can reference to the other file. This way, you can just keep all of the global elements inside this global file here, and you don't have to keep searching for them in every single file because, as I told you, they can be reused over the whole project. So if you end up with, like, let's say 30 configuration files here with different flows, then the last thing that you want is to go into each specific file to look for the global elements to like find wherever they are. So if you have just the global XML file, you will always know that the global elements are located here. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention, the global elements for the best practices, and now the properties. So you saw that I had the HTTP listener configuration, and it already says that this is 0000, and this is using port 8081. But what if, for example, this is only like in my local environment is running on 8081, but in my dev environment it's running on 8082, or in my prod environment it's running on 80. Like, I don't know, like there are different ports that you can do per environment. So another best practice is to create properties for all of these settings and to create a different property file per environment. In this particular case, I will not have a prod environment. I will just have a local environment and a dev environment, which is the local is what I'm running here in my computer, and the dev environment is what I'm gonna run when I put it in CloudHub. So if you go here to source main resources, you can right click on it, select new, and then just new file, I think. Yeah. Then just new file. And I am gonna name this local.properties. You can also use local.yaml, for example, like this. And you can keep all of your properties in a YAML file instead of a properties file, but I don't know. I'm just used to the .properties extension that I prefer that, but you can use whichever you want. So click on finish, and then let's create another one that is going to be dev.properties. Cool. So now we have dev.properties and local.properties. And now, for example, if I want to create, let me do HTTP. There you can see HTTP dot host HTTP dot port, and host is going to be 0000, and port is going to be, let's do 8082 just to change it a little bit. So now I can copy and I can save this as well, and then go to the dev.properties, and in the dev.properties I do want to do 8081, so I'm gonna save it like this. And now let's take the HTTP host property, go to global. If I open the just double click on it or select edit from here, the HTTP listener config. Now I can change this to be dynamic, and to change it to be dynamic and to take the properties, I will do this. We have $, curly brackets, and then the property http.host, and then we close the curly brackets. We can also have this port to be dynamic, HTTP host, HTTP port. So, all right, we did that, but that's not all. Like, how will this program or app know which configuration file is which? We need to create another variable. So if I click here on create in the global.xml file, in the global elements, because I'm going to create a global element, and I click here on create, let's do property. If you search for property, you will see the global property. So you can click on that, for example, and here you can create a new property. This is the way that I do it. There are other ways to do it. Here in name, let's do env, and value is gonna be local. Because every time that you run this in anywhere else that is not CloudHub, then the default is gonna be local. So name, env, value, local. So if I run this in my local, it's gonna have the value local. And if I run this in CloudHub, I'm gonna put a property there that says dev, for example. Click OK, you have that. But now, how will it know exactly which file, right? So let's create another global property. And now look for configuration properties. Double click on it, and it will ask you for the file. So here is where you will connect the file that we have here, either dev.property or local.properties. And since we already said the environment, like the env property is going to be local for this case, then it's going to take the local.properties, right? So for that, we're going to do this. We put the same syntax that we had before, $, curly brackets, and inside we put env dot properties. So if we run this in local, the env is going to be local. So this file is going to be local.properties. If we run this in Cloud Hub, where I'm going to put a dev property, then this is going to be dev.properties. So that is how it will know which file specifically it will take. Okay, so now remember that when I run it, we're not going to see a response back from the terminal, but we are going to see a new message being added from the console. So I run it. There was no response, but we can see that there was a new log inside here. So I can run it again so you can see that it is logging stuff. If I were to run 8081, it wouldn't work. Because now it's using the properties. It's correctly coming to my properties here because I have 8082. And in dev properties, I have 8081. So now let's start implementing stuff. I'm thinking we can use the object store that MuleSoft provides for you. Because I don't know, I just like it. We can also try to implement our own database, but I feel like that's gonna be more issues because in local, maybe you just have your local instance of a database like SQL. But then when you send it to Cloud Hub, it's gonna have to connect to a service where you have your database in the cloud. And I don't have the infrastructure for that right now. So I feel like the easiest way to do it with just the few resources that we have is to do it in object store. So let's do /articles get. Let's do the get. So we have get articles. That is the first flow that we are going to try to connect. We're gonna leave the logger, but I'm gonna change the logger to show me the start, like for me to know that it got into the flow. I'm gonna change here the message that it says here. Let me zoom in. It says it's basically just outputting the name of the flow. So I'm gonna change that message and I'm gonna put starting get articles, for example, because that makes sense for me. And here on the display name, I'm gonna put start. And I'll probably do another logger here for the end. So the same thing that I put in the start, I'm just gonna put it in the end. Ending, just so I know where it ended and where it began. And now here we're gonna add the object store. So right now we don't have any module for the object store. We just have core, API kit, HTTP, and sockets. So we're gonna click here on add module and let's see if the object store is here, and it is. So you literally just have to take it, drag and drop it to the left side, let it go, and now you have the object store. If there is a module that is not here, but it's in Exchange, you can also click here on search in Exchange, and it will get you to this other screen that we have seen before, and you just have to sign in with your username for Anypoint platform and add the module from here to add it to your Mule palette. Okay, so I would want retrieve. And now we see here that we have an X saying that because this is required, the key is required. And here on the top, you can also see attribute key is required. Or if you go to problems, you will also be able to see here the errors. Required attribute key is not defined in object store. So now we're here on retrieve, and the key, I'm gonna name these articles. Articles. Yeah, articles. Default value and then object store. So here, this is a drop down for the configuration of the object store. I have not done that. So instead of creating the global element from here, you cannot see it. Hold on. From here, I will instead go directly to the global.xml, go to global elements, and create the object store global element. So if I looked for object store, we have this, right click on it, double click on it. It just asks for a name. If it's persistent, max entries. I don't think I need any of that. I think that's good enough, I think. So that's all. I didn't really add anything. I just created the configuration, save it, and then I go back to where I was. And now I can select it from here. Now it's on my dropdown. So post articles, and then I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with the loggers before. And now we are going to add then the object store, and we're gonna select store. It says stores the given value using the given key, which is exactly what we want. So, oops, let's put the store there. That's gonna tell me what that does. And then the key is gonna be articles, like the retrieve, right? And here you start to wonder, like maybe you should have a property to retrieve these instead of having to manually write it, instead in case there is a typo or something. So yes, we can do that. Or maybe I will just leave it to you. Or no, I think we can do that. So then we have value here. The value is gonna be the payload. So whatever comes in the request is gonna be added to the articles. We're not gonna do any validation whatsoever. We just want to do a POC really quick. So we're gonna leave it like that through object store, and then we just select here our object store, and that's it. We're done. Now this way we are going to be overwriting the same thing over and over again. Okay, wait, let's create the property. And because this property is always gonna be the same regardless of the environment, I am gonna create in source main resources, new file, and I'm gonna put this as default.properties. Like this, default.properties, because all of these properties I want to be available in all of the environments. They're not gonna change. So here, for example, is gonna be object store dot articles equals to articles. I just want to avoid the typo. That's all. Then I'm gonna reference this property in the object store stuff. Save this. Go back. Now here in the store, I was doing these key articles. And then here's another way to call your properties. Instead of doing this syntax as we were doing before, os.articles inside like the $sign and curly brackets, when you have this FX button, you can click on that and this will become data with code, basically. So here I'm gonna do mule : P parentheses, and inside in quotes I'm gonna put my os.articles. You can also do this without the P, like this, POS articles, but I have found that that syntax sometimes can give you trouble, so I'm gonna leave it as mule P. So I'm just gonna copy this then and put it in the other place as well, so we can reference that instead of having to manually write it. So now I click on the FX. This is gonna be now mule P. And also, if you're not sure if you had clicked on the FX or not, you can see here there is like a hashtag and then square bracket that is telling you that this is a formula instead of being a literal value. Okay. And the other thing that we have to do is go to global, the same thing we did here to put like m.properties, But now we have to add our other file. First, we need to retrieve all of the articles so we can add the new article to what already was there. Instead of like, if we just leave it like this, then it's gonna remove what already is stored in the articles key, and it's gonna keep like just put these ones. So there's always gonna be just one every time that we use this. We don't want that. We want to keep adding into the new stuff. So what we are going to do is that we are going to retrieve, retrieve. Why do you keep moving me? I don't understand. Here, retrieve. And I'm gonna use the same OS article property for this key. And the object store is gonna be object store. The issue here is that when we arrive here, what we have in the content of the payload, or like whatever we have from the request, is gonna be the request that we send, right? But then when we get here and we retrieve the articles, that is gonna be removed. So what we're going to do is that if we click here on advanced, target variable, we're gonna create a new variable called articles, and the target value is gonna be the payload. So this way we will have the variable articles and the payload, and then we're gonna put them together. All right, so now we can add the transform message here before storing, but after retrieving. And this is what we are going to do with DataWeave. My array plus payload, which is going to be the object that I receive from the request. And that's all. I am just putting my new article inside the array of articles that I already had. Let's rename this. Here you have rename as append new article. Okay, so we retrieve the articles, we append the new article, and then we store that, which is like the array with the new article. We store that, which is now in the payload, into OS articles. And if you want to kind of keep things clean, you can also remove the variable that we used before. So after this, if you want to just help a little bit the garbage collector, you can do that. If you don't do this, it's fine. It's not gonna break. The variable is not gonna stay there forever. As soon as this flow is done, that variable we created is gonna be removed, which was article, right? Articles. Yes, articles. But I like to keep things tidy. So remove variable articles. I'm gonna put here articles. There's that. You don't have to do this again. This is a very small program. It's not gonna break just because you don't have this. But I like to see it. All right, and that's all. That should work. Okay, all good. Was deployed. So let's call articles. Oh, I tried 8081. It was 8082. Okay. Oh, I received... Oh, because it doesn't exist, I think. Doesn't contain any value for key articles, and default value was not provided. Oh, or resolved to a null value. Okay, stop. Let's do that really quick. So in the retrieve, and now notice this, because we have here a retrieve in get, in the get articles, we have a retrieve, which is doing basically just retrieving OS articles. And we have another one here, which is doing the same thing. The only difference is that here we have, we're putting it in a variable. So maybe we could create a soft flow doing these two things. But for now, let's just leave it simple. So now I'm gonna put the default value here. I'm gonna do a data with code, and I'm just gonna put an empty array. So this empty array, I'm gonna put it in the other as well. You can maybe try to figure out how to create sub flows so you can put all of these things in. If you want, that's okay if you don't. All right, so saved, run it again. And another thing that we can also do is that we can create different configuration files for each resource. So we can have one with articles, one with writers, one with categories. And this way we can have all of the logic of the flows in those specific files. And here I can just do a flow reference from this part to that other part. So that way I don't have to keep working here on this file because it's so long, and I can just keep working on smaller files from this side. I can also maybe... No, I think you can figure that out. You can figure out how to do that on your own. So maybe for homework, you have to create different files here. I'm gonna put all of the instructions in the GitHub repo as well so you can follow up. But here in the source main Mule, you will have to create configuration files like these ones. And you will have to have there the flows that we just created, or the things that we just created. These three, for example, are gonna have to be on a soft flow in that other part. And here, you will only have a flow reference. So if I look for it here, here's a flow reference. So that's how I want you to do that for the homework. Is this on? Yes. So now let's try this again. Okay. Okay, stop. I think I know what that is. They want me to do output application JSON. So this way, this empty array is gonna be an application JSON. So let's save that and change that in the other one as well. And that is why we want soft flows. Instead of having to do this every single time in both of them, we could just be able to do it in one place and it would be reflected automatically in both of them. Are we done? Yeah. Okay. Finally. Okay. So now we retrieve the articles and we are retrieving an empty array. So this is a post and I am in localhost 8082. Oops, 8082/API/ what was it? Articles. And for the body, I'm gonna send raw, and this is a JSON. And then let's copy this again and paste it. Okay, send. And we received the 201 created, and we received this thing. Now let me try this again. It created it! Yay! It was created. So let me try this. Now let me do ID2, and I'm gonna remove this whole thing so it doesn't look that big. Also, okay, the importance of data whip. And this also was written by Esmeralda. Category data weave. And there are no comments in this case. Okay. And the slug importance of data weave. Okay, now let's send this. It was posted according to this. And now I can also do the get here, but I just don't want to. So now we have the two of them. We have the first one and the second one. Okay, I'm gonna do it here. You win. Get articles sent. So we have 1 article, 2 articles. Yay, it's working. I'm glad I tested it. All right, so this is working. You have the first version. Now you figure out how to do the rest of the things. And also, like, remember, create a new configuration file here for every resource, so you don't have to keep navigating in this huge file and you just have a flow reference. You can even, I think, select this whole thing, and then, yeah, you can right click on this and extract to flow or subflow. There. So there are ways to do it. Just try it out. Try to see what works, what doesn't work. This will give you a lot of experience to figure out what's happening. And yeah, I hope this works for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I really appreciate all of you for joining me and for watching my videos. Please let me know if you have any suggestions or any feedback for me of what else you want to see, if this is working for you, or if you have any questions. Also, if you don't finish the homework by the 19th, I will be happy to help you. You can contact me on LinkedIn or on Slack or on Discord, and I can just help you with that to see what we can do, or just wait for the session to see how to do it. All right, that's all for this live stream then. I will see you in 2 weeks, and I will upload the homework solution, my solution, on the 12th. All right. See you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.